The United States has been experiencing a cultural shift marked by the 2016 presidential election. In 2016, we saw how truly divided our country is, exemplified by two politicians that stood on seemingly opposite ends of the American political spectrum. Donald Trump, whose campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," embodies a sentiment of Americans who feel threatened by change and whose ideology is concerned with reverting America back to greatness. And Bernie Sanders, a self-proclaimed socialist with a progressive message preaching social and economic equality. Bernie's platform did historically well in the younger segments of the voting pool. The Washington Post referred to Sanders' ability to get young people to the polls as a phenomenon. The ideological differences that exist in our country have never been more blatant. One side is holding on to the values of the past with an iron fist, and the other side is running towards the future with no plans of ever looking back. These ideas contradict one another by design. The economic, political, and social success of the United States is predicated on centuries of evolving forms of slavery. Be it physical, mental, or social, the United States has made persistent efforts to continue the oppression from which it exploits its citizens and gains its profits. The current administration is using divisive tactics to highlight our differences and manipulate American society's deepest taboos. The truth is that although societally harmful, racism, misogyny, homophobia, and sexism are insanely profitable. Oppression greases the cog of capitalism. Young people in this country are becoming aware of how the skewed priorities of our government negatively impacts millions of Americans on a day-to-day basis. New Paltz is a small college town in upstate New York and home to the State University of New Paltz. New Paltz is widely considered to be a bohemian and highly progressive town. The State University at New Paltz is ranked 22nd on Niche.com's most liberal school in America. Despite its progressive appearance, there are constant occasions of blatant racism in New Paltz. Luckily, this town has been able to foster a community of politically conscious, civically engaged people who dedicate their time to combating these social injustices. The New Paltz branch of the ISO has organized several rallies and protests against the different problematic issues that have arose in this town. New Paltz has gotten a lot of press coverage in the past couple of months due to all the civic engagement sparked by the ISO. The members of the ISO have created this space for a real and honest dialogue about how progressive we actually are as a country. Through practicing their rights to peacefully protest, they have made New Paltz look at itself in a mirror for what it actually is. And it is not the diverse liberal town the university sells itself as. This is a microcosm for what is happening around the country. Young people are making America be honest about what its values truly are. These young people are the new face of American politics. The members of the ISO are interested in being politically engaged from a radical perspective. These young people believe capitalism to be at the core of oppression in our country. If not capitalism, then what?
So for me here in New Paltz, I think the ISO really encompasses my political views more so than any other club. But I really like kind of how democratic centralism it is. It allows anybody who can come from town, from school, and it's a really good form of debate, and I think compared to other clubs where they may already have a mission, ISO brings people together to kind of debate and work out the issues of contemporary politics.
I definitely think the current political system is failing us. But I think that capitalism has not been able to provide people with a basic standard of living. Minimum wage isn't enough for rent in any region of the US. But I also think that it would be wrong to characterize the system as broken. Capitalism is working exactly how it was designed to work, to not actually value, human lives over profit. It, continually just values making money over what people actually need. So I think the current system, while it's working perfectly well, it's definitely broken in the sense that it's not working for anybody.
I consider myself that of, I had politically nihilist sympathies to mean that, not that, it's meaningless, but the Democrats and Republicans are meaningless and that they're putting on a show for people.
I think more young people than ever before have considered socialism. I think prior there was kind of this Cold War rhetoric that continued for a while, where people were really frightened by like the thought of communism, as they saw it as kind of a limit to their own personal freedoms. But I think now more than ever, people are realizing the hypocrisies like integral in liberalism, and how it's kind of failed to address social issues, and how, you know, social spending is virtually none, and people are in debt, people are struggling to pay for healthcare, for education. So we see like these kind of systemic failures in our system.
Yeah, so one thing that Marx talked a lot about was how struggle and resistance against capitalism is like inevitable, because capitalism degrades the material conditions of people, so they're naturally going to want to resist. So I think that has a lot of implications for how the future of like US society, but also the entire world, will play out, and that I think that it's inevitable that in the future we'll see lots of resistance against capitalism. We've already seen it throughout history. Whether we're actually able to like succeed in like winning a socialist society, like we might have a revolution, for example, and then we might not win the revolution, and then we won't have socialism. You know, whether we succeed, I think almost entirely depends on whether, or mostly depends on whether we're organized and disciplined and able to like, you know, lead that revolution to its conclusion and make sure that we're actually able to establish a more equal and democratic society.
But I'm not sure that under capitalism, reform is really what we need. If anything, we need kind of a whole new narrative that kind of does away with this American exceptionalism that we've been leading for the last couple decades.
If you are part of the American population that believes our society could be more equitable, there are a few steps you can take. 1. Organize locally with like-minded individuals and begin to develop a political consciousness around your values and beliefs. 2. Participate in civil disobedience like protests, rallies, walkouts, and teach-outs.